Hello and welcome to Mr.E Thinks. Today we're talking watches. Today we'll be talking about the Seiko SLA-021 or SBDX-023, also known as the MarineMaster 300. We have dimensions of 44.3 millimeters across, as well as 50.5 millimeters lug to lug, and 15.4 millimeters thick. Working from the inside out, the watch uses Seiko's 8L35 movement. This is a 26 joule movement beating at 4 Hertz, also with a 50-hour power reserve, featuring both hacking and hand winding. Seiko claims an accuracy of plus 15 to minus 10 seconds per day, but many owners, including myself, have reported much better accuracy. I myself am getting around minus 2 seconds a day. The movement sits in a stainless steel monoblock case, or otherwise known as a one piece, meaning that there's no case back. Combined with Seiko's L-shaped gaskets, this makes it rated for saturation diving, meaning that helium cannot enter the case. Along with this has an ISO diver's rating of 300 meters. The watch face uses a matte black dial with large lumed applied indices and a date window at 3 o'clock. The watch has a broadsword style minute and hour hand. It's brushed on the top and then has a nice polishing on the edges, which gives it a nice outline, making it very easy to read, as well as with its large lume application. The second hand, on the other hand, is gilded gold, which matches the 300 meter rating on the dial. But the finishing on the second hand is not as nice. It almost looks like it's a stamped piece of metal. Moving out from the watch face, we have the fully indexed chapter ring, which blends right into the large bezel surrounding the watch face. The MarineMaster uses a 120 click unidirectional bezel. It's really smooth and it feels like I'm opening a safe. There's a little bit of backplay, but it's very minor. The insert is ceramic, which is an upgrade for this specific model, as well as fully engraved indices. I love engraved indices on ceramic because ceramic tends to be very reflective and shiny, and if the indices aren't engraved, then they get lost in the reflection. But you can see here that even with the reflection, you can still read the numbers. Another upgrade to this watch model is the inverted triangle for the lume pip. I find the inverted triangle to be much better than the typical, circular. Well, this also has an inverted triangle. The typical circular pip, as when you're in the dark or underwater, that circular pip really blends itself in with all the other circular indices on the watch face. The inverted triangle makes it very easy to orient the watch, as well as makes it a much more precise, point to indicate your starting time or elapsed time. This model also is loomed all the way to the 20-minute marker. This is also another upgrade from this model to the previous models. I would love to see a fully loomed bezel, but up to the 20 is good for now. And surrounding the bezel is this nice coin edge, which makes it really easy to grip. It's even with wet hands. I've taken this on plus 50 dives and have never had a problem moving the bezel. Never had a problem with it moving unintentionally either. But yeah, this is a really pleasure to use. I know some people don't like the height of this case, as well as with the bezel, but when you're wearing gloves or slippery hands, that extra surface on the bezel really adds to its grip. Okay, moving out from the bezel, we have the case itself, which we talked about earlier. It's a stainless steel one-piece monocoque. Has a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces. Seiko calls it Zaratsu polishing, which gives it this mirror-like finish. This does a really nice thing, that when you wear the watch on your wrist, the polished edges actually reflect your skin, so it really makes the watch look much smaller than its dimensions would appear. So being a 44.5, I believe, millimeter across watch, actually the bezel is only 40 millimeters, so when you wear the watch, yeah, excuse my watch tan, you'll see that the edges actually reflect my skin, so it just disappears. All you really see is the bezel. So this 44.5 millimeter watch really appears like a 40 millimeter watch, excuse me. I also thought that the 50 millimeter lug to lug would be an issue on this watch, being that I only have a 6.5 inch wrist, or 16.5 centimeters, but the case also curves down. It's hard to see here. Curves and really forms to the wrist, making it very comfortable, and really doesn't wear as big as it sounds. Definitely not too big, I would say. Very nice proportions for a diver. And finally, moving out from the watch case, we have the bracelet. Now the bracelet has received a lot of criticism, and I have to say I agree with most of it. The watch has been criticized for having abnormally long links, which I must agree with, as well as it has a pin and collar system, as opposed to most watches of this price range would have screw links. Seiko says that pin and collar is more secure, but I don't know. I would like a screw links personally. And then moving on to the clasp, Seiko's also been criticized at this price point for using a stamped clasp. I don't really find that much of an issue with it. It's also very thick, but that's because it houses a very nice dive extension. Now, people don't really like dive extensions, I would say. I think most people find it, unnecessary, but as a diver, I really appreciate it. And the best thing about this dive extension, which I would say is better than the Tudors and the Omegas and Rolexes, is that this can be adjusted while it's on your wrist. Now, the Omegas and the Tudors, or even classic dive extensions, you would need to remove the watch. For example, on this Marathon, you would need to remove the watch to activate the dive extension. The same with on the Rolex, even with their glide lock system, you need to remove it and extend it on the bezel, on the clasp. Now the Seiko MarineMaster, you can actually have the watch on you, and just by lifting up the tab, you can release this ratcheting mechanism, which is also very long, can fit over a dry suit, a wetsuit, wetsuit with gloves. And now the reason why this is so important is that you don't want to be removing your watch to adjust it when you're underwater. That just seems like an unnecessary risk. Now when you're diving, you're going to want to extend the bracelet to fit over your glove or your wetsuit, or your glove over your wetsuit, or your dry suit. And as you go down, descend, the water pressure will actually compress the wetsuit and your body. So you'll find that the watch will all of a sudden become loose, and you don't really want that. So you can go ahead and just squeeze it and tighten it, which I've done on dives, and it's very nice to just be able to re-secure it on your wrist. Not that it's gonna fall off, but it's definitely not, I don't like having things flopping around my wrist either. And then when you come up to the surface, you can extend it. I've found that when I did resurface, it doesn't really feel like it's getting tighter. I don't know, maybe it just squeezes into the wetsuit. But yeah, you can also just quickly release pressure, I guess, if you need to. Really nice feature, really appreciate it. If you don't like the bracelet, there's a lot of aftermarket companies that make bracelets, including the N-Link, which fits nicely to the case. My favorite one would be the strap code. I have both the Jubilee style and the Oyster, and I must say I like them both. I I wear the Oyster, I would say, maybe like 80%, 90% of the time. Since I've gotten them, I haven't really used the OEM strap. I will do a review of the strap code bracelet in another video. And finally, the Lume. Seiko is known for having world-class leading Lume, and that's no different with the MarineMaster 300. With the inverted triangle and the Lume on the bezel, as well as the large applied indices and the broad hands, this watch is extremely easy to read at night. My only criticism would be that there is no Lume at the 3 o'clock, meaning when in total darkness, it's just kind of like a black area there. Something that I wish they would do in the future is, for example, on this Citizen ProMaster Aqualand, there's a small lumed bar that sits right at the edge of the Lume window. I mean, it doesn't really disrupt the balance of the watch at all, but at the same time, when you're in the dark, you can at least have a little indicator there. So it's not just some barren empty space. This watch is a great dive watch as well. I will be doing a review on it soon. Now my final thoughts on the watch. I find that with its retail price of $2,790, and if you really want to upgrade the strap for just a couple $100 more to like an Oyster style screw link bracelet from Strapcode, it really puts it on the level of the Omegas and the Rolexes as far as its quality and looks. I would say, in my opinion, this is the best diver of the three, with the bezel action and its ease of use compared to, like, for instance, the Omega Seamaster. Its bezel is much easier to grip, as well as with the Rolex. I love that the Seiko MarineMaster has a full indexing on the bezel, as opposed to the Submariner's indexing just to the 15 or 20 minute marker. I believe the Sea Dweller has a fully indexed bezel, but that's also, 3-4 times the cost. So all in all, I find that I have very little criticisms for this watch, and has been my daily driver for about over a year, and I've done 50 plus dives with it, so can't really complain. So this has been my overview of the Seiko MarineMaster 300. I like talking about all things tech, so if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, or hit me up on my Discord and Instagram. I'll be making more content like this in the future of other watches, keyboards, and other tech. So if you like what you saw, please feel free to subscribe and hit that like button, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye. Hey everyone, if you stuck around to the end of the video, I really appreciate it. As a token of my appreciation, I've been talking with Gnomon Watches, and I've secured us a $50 discount on both the SBDX021 and the SBDX023. That's the black and the blue models. So if you use the discount code MRE50 at checkout, you'll get $50 off of your purchase. Now, this is not a sponsored content video. I'm not being paid by Gnomon Watches, but I've had nothing but pleasure dealing with them, as well as their customer service, and they have worldwide shipping. So please check them out. All right, thanks guys. See you in the next video.